I've been harvesting a rainbow of root crops in my garden for well over a decade. Check out my method for how to grow a ton of carrots. I'm Scott from New Garden Road, always out here to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Encouraging biodiversity and restoring habitat is my mission, one garden at a time. This all starts with preparing the soil. 8 to 12 inches of soil depth is essential for growing champion carrots, and it needs to be loose and well draining for optimal root development. This will produce carrots with a more uniform shape and size. While I know carrots aren't people, they do seem to have a sense of humor in my opinion. You're going to get a variety of sizes and shapes when you grow carrots. They're not all going to be uniform and perfect like you see at the grocery store. This is the reality of growing food. What you see in the grocery store is the ones that have been selected. You don't get all the misfits and some of those that you will when you grow them yourself. Add compost and a fertilizer higher in phosphorus ahead of planting. Doing so will provide them with the nutrients that they'll need for the growing season. Somewhere on every bag of fertilizer, it should be labeled with an NPK ratio, and the middle number is phosphorus, which is responsible for flowers, fruits, and roots. And that's what we want to eat. If you have a shallow soil or you just don't have much to work with, I recommend trying varieties such as the Paris Market or Oxheart, Littlefinger, and my dad's favorite, the Danvers. And don't be afraid to try growing carrots in containers. Planting from seed is generally the way to go when you're planting root crops. If you see carrots growing in a 4-inch pot at a local nursery, it may be tempting to give it a shot, and while that can give you some experience growing them, it's really not going to give you the best bang for your buck. Let's talk about planting your carrot seeds. One thing that I really like to do when I'm preparing soil ahead of seeding, and in particular anytime I'm direct seeding a very small seed such as carrot seeds, I really like to smooth out that soil, make it nice and even, sift it possibly to remove some of the heavier, bulkier particles. Sometimes those can, get in the way of your seeds germinating, and if it's a real small seed, it doesn't have a whole lot of oomph to really break through that heavy sediment or mulch, rocks, things of that nature. A slow and deep soil soaking ahead of planting is helpful. Be meticulous as you plant your seeds, and you'll spend less time thinning, and you'll be saving seeds for planting in the future. One seeding tool that I just started using is this little hand seeder right here. It's pretty simple. It's made of plastic, just two pieces. All right, so what you've got here is some different size openings that allow seeds of different sizes to pass through. So I usually do the number 2 setting right here for carrot seeds, and what I'll end up doing is I'll load up most or all of a packet of seeds in here. I don't even have to worry about it because I can just put them back in the seed packet when I'm done. It's real convenient. And then I'll just put the top on, set the opening or the aperture that I want for the seeds, and then from there I can just go through and efficiently, easily seed whatever it is that I've got. In this case, carrots. It works really well because it saves me some time. If you think about it, if I'm holding a packet of seeds, I'm using 2 hands, and I'm either taking time to put some in my hand, or I've got them in my hand and I'm taking time to pick them up and then place them into the space. When I'm using this device, all I have to do is tap a little bit, move on, tap some more, and I'm planting seeds. There's no hesitation in between picking up or pouring some more seeds into my hands. Also, if I need to do something momentarily, I can set this down and the seeds are secured during that time. It does have some little ridges here at the end which kind of break the flow of the seeds as they get to the end. It's not foolproof by any means. You have to be really mindful as you use this, but I think it has really helped me just be more conservative in the amount of seeds that I'm putting out, as well as saving me some time and energy. I really enjoy employing square foot gardening techniques when I'm planting carrots. Try to plant 1 or 2 seeds every 2 inches. In the square foot gardening style, this can equate to 36 carrots per square foot. Here's a homemade spacing grid that helps me to visualize the spacing. This is something that I made from some 14 gauge galvanized fencing. You can get it in rolls at the hardware store. And from there, I just used some wire cutters. What I had in the framing of this fencing was the capacity to make a 12-inch square. So that's what we've got here. By cutting out some of these middle pieces of wire, I've got it divided up into 9 sections. Each one of those is 4 square inches. This is perfect for planting seeds at a rate of 9 per square foot. In the case of carrots, it's really easy for me to visualize. I just take one of these smaller squares and divide it up into 4, and then I've got 2-inch spacing. So that's 4 carrots per small square here, and in the end that gives me 36 carrots per square foot. That's pretty good, pretty efficient. This is a lot different than planting in rows where you're spacing the rows you know, a certain distance apart. I think it really maximizes the space that you can plant out in a small garden. Square foot gardening is just great for that. And I think carrots work perfectly with this type of spacing. And what this little homemade grid does is just like the little hand seeding tool. It saves me so much time. I can just lay it down, put it in place, and then boom, 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 I've got my seeds planted. I flip it over, right? And then I continue. So it's a very seamless, process-oriented action that I really like to employ in my gardening. It just helps me be consistent. Cover your seeds with sifted compost or worm castings and gently firm them in so they'll stay in place. Some of my all-time personal favorite carrot varieties to grow are Dragon, Scarlet Nantes, Yellowstone, and Purple Sun. And that's nearly a rainbow, y'all. Germination may take 1 to 3 weeks, and it's important that you don't let those seeds dry out during this period. Water or mist them daily, being careful not to move soil or displace any seeds. I also recommend a weekly deep soaking with drip irrigation or a soaker hose. And you can also try covering your seedbed with burlap or row cover to help lock in moisture. This can be helpful if weather conditions are warm or windy and you're not getting any rain. It's important to note that I do pull back that cover before I water the seeds again. Thin your seedlings to 1 every 2 inches with pruning shears. Avoid the urge to pull them by hand. This can be particularly risky if you've got a bunch of young seedlings growing close together, and you may inadvertently pull out more than you intend to. You can also let those tops grow to about 6 inches and then try harvesting some baby carrots. This works pretty well if your carrots aren't planted too densely, otherwise they might not size up sufficiently for this method. Maintenance needs for growing carrots are relatively low. You need to provide some consistent moisture throughout the growing season, particularly as the roots begin to size up. If you want to go all out, you can apply a liquid drench of fish fertilizer and liquid seaweed every 2 to 4 weeks. But if you prepare that soil well in advance, it's not really necessary. And make sure you're vigilant and remove any weeds that pop up, as they'll interfere with your carrots' growth and development. Depending on the varieties that you're growing, it can take 50 to 80 days before carrots are ready to harvest. And it's perfectly fine to let them keep growing, because the longer they grow, the bigger they'll get. If you're growing carrots through the fall and winter, like I am in my Texas garden, just be aware that it may take longer, because anytime we have shorter days and cooler temperatures, plants are going to grow more slowly. If you want to test things out, you can check the shoulder of the carrot for readiness. Gently excavate around the top of the root, and it should be about 1 to 2 inches in diameter. When you're ready, gently wiggle the carrot while holding the top of the root and pull up slowly and gently. So I've had a really good growing season for carrots. I planted my first round in October of last year, October 18th, and I began harvesting from that seeding on the 3rd of March. So in the end, that's nearly 5 months of growth before I harvested carrots. But nonetheless, it equates to a lot of carrots, and they're ready for me to harvest as I need them. I just need to keep them watered, and they'll remain in good quality. True succession planting occurs in a shorter time interval than I've enacted here, but I did plant some more carrots on February 18th. They are growing at a more consistent rate than my first planting because we're increasing our daylight hours. So once we hit about the 3-month mark, I would expect to get some of these coming out of the ground. And that's really a great way to have a sustained harvest. Plant in more proximity, say every 2 or 3 weeks, plant another round. You're gonna have a cascade of carrots, which is beautiful. Here in Central Texas, I typically want to pull all my carrots by June, maybe July. You know, I pushed it into July. A lot of times they'll bolt or go to flower, and that will happen a lot of times when it gets really warm, particularly with the fall sown carrots, because they're a biennial crop, and I think when they go through that pattern of day length, they will get triggered to bolt, especially when the soil temperatures get really warm. So one variety in particular that has bolted and flowered is the Black Nebula. The color, it would bleed. I would get purple on my fingers, so a really, really dark purple carrot. And the flowers were unique in that way too. You could see some of the hues of dark red and purple in the flowers, and they were really beautiful. These make a great habitat for insects, which encourages biodiversity in the garden, more varieties of insects, because it's providing food to them and some habitat. And it worked out good in this case because the Black Nebula is all on the north side of this bed, so it's not shading out or interfering with the growth and development of the rest of my crop. Now check out more awesome gardening videos on my channel, like this video, and follow New Garden Road for weekly content. You can grow your own carrots. Keep it organic.